Number one, they ask, the wages paid to the factory cleaner. So I see the word factory, so I know this expense will be allocated to factory overheads. And factory overheads, wages and salaries is indirect. So the answer would be C. Okay. You guys haven't heard 5.1.2. Let me explain it to you. It wasn't part of the homework, but let me explain to you. The prime cost is the cost that the product cannot be made without. It's the most important cost. So the prime cost is your direct labor and your direct material. So it will be B. So in other words, write for yourself, prime cost is direct material plus direct labor. Your secondary cost would be factory overheads. You get it? Okay. Which one of the following is regarded as a factory overhead? Oh, can you see? It's the same question as one. Because, let me quickly just go through this. The office telephone would be admin. The salesperson's salary would be selling distribution. Advertising would be selling distribution. Okay. Number 5.1.4. I told you not to do it, but let me explain to you. I'm going to draw a little block here. So, fixed cost is costs that's not determined by units. In other words, I'm going to pay that cost no matter how many units I make. Right. For instance, if I switch on the light in the class, am I going to use more electricity if I'm alone in the class or if all of you are here? No, the light is on. The light is on. So that electricity is not determined by my units. If things that you need to understand is if I use electricity, the initial cost is more. But if I bake, so switching on the oven is that takes the most energy, for instance. But it's not going to take less or more energy if I bake one cake or I put 4 cakes in the same oven at the same time. It's going to use the same electricity. It's not determined by the units. Okay, so your fixed cost would be your factory overhead and your admin. So in other words, the word fixed cost doesn't mean it never changes. Because rent expense is part of factory overheads. And you know that the rent goes up as inflation goes up. The definition for a fixed cost is it's not determined by the units. Okay. Variable cost, on the other hand, is determined by the units. So for every item that I make, I need a certain amount of material, a certain amount of labor. So if I'm baking a cake, it needs 2 eggs. If I'm baking 2 cakes, 2x, 2x gives me 4 eggs. If I bake 3 cakes, 2x, 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 now I've got 6 eggs. Can you see it goes with the units? Right. Everybody with me? Okay. So your variable cost is going to be your direct material, direct labor, and sales and distribution. Okay. So that's things you need to remember. So now, if I look at fixed cost per unit, I already told you what is it. Factory overhead and admin. So, what is it? They don't give me that. But what do they give me? I want per unit. Right? So what do I do if I want to know per unit? If I say to you, I baked 3 cakes and I used 9 eggs. What is my cost per unit? Okay, let's come down to you. I say I'm buying a bag of stock sweets. You are 30 learners in the class. Ne? There is 60 stock sweets in the bag. How many sweets is everyone going to get? 2. What did you do? You took 60 divided 2. 60 divided 30 gave you 2. So now I'm asking you the same thing. If I say to you, I baked 3 cakes and I used 6 eggs. How many eggs did I use per cake? Can you see? So now they ask you fixed cost per unit. So what's going to be on top? Fixed cost. What's going to be at the bottom? Units. Remember, the moment you hear the word per, it's a dividing. Okay. So per, you're going to divide the fixed cost with the units. Can you see which one would that be? D. So if I say to you, calculate for me the variable, the direct labor cost per unit. What would be on top? What would be at the bottom? Total direct labor at the top, units at the bottom. If I say to you, calculate for me the prime cost per unit, what would be on top? Prime cost. What would be at bottom? Units. What is prime cost? Direct labor and direct material. Can you see? You have to know it. No? Okay. Refer to the information C below and do for me the work in progress T account. Oh, I see. Someone brought back my notes. Thank you. I was looking for it yesterday.
I don't think someone brought it back. I just took 2 papers off and gave it to him.
So most probably I found it and put it there, which I didn't, but I just didn't know that I did. Does that make sense? So I put it there, but I didn't know that I put it there. Does that make sense? Yes. Does that give you lots of confidence in your teacher?
Yes.
Okay, work in progress. I have an opening balance. Ne? I have direct material, or what's the other word? Raw material. I've got direct labor. I've got factory overheads. I've got finished goods, which is my production cost, ne? This is, if they ask you how much did it cost me to produce, it's this. This is the production cost of finished goods. Isn't that true? Okay, you guys, I see the test silenced you. And that's my closing balance. Okay, now, very important, what do they say here to me? Here at the start, so they say calculate the value of the direct labor cost that would go to the work in progress. So let's go look. Direct labor cost is where? Here. Number C. But now I see there's quite a lot of things going on here. I see that employees in the production process, factory foreman, and salesperson. So am I going to do all 3? 1 of the 3, 2 of the 3? Only one. Nay, you're literally only going to do, because they want direct, the guys in the process itself. Okay. So, if I look at this, I'm going to say, I have 5 workers who each gets 65,000 Rand a year. That gives me what?
32,000.
Okay. Those 5 workers also each worked 180 hours overtime at 70 Rand an hour, and that gives me.
63.
Was there any contributions given? Did they say anything about contributions? I don't see anything. So I just add those two. So in other words, if I had to do the work in process or progress, I would put this in there. There. Everybody with me? Okay, next one. You didn't have to do 5.3. We're going to do that at a later stage. Where's 5.4? There is no 5.4, am I right? Because I'm seeing 5.3 and then I see 5.5. Am I right? Where's 5.4?
It's on page 12.
Oh, sorry, it's the Mona Lisa. Sorry. 5.3.1. The total production costs of finished goods. And I said to you, if you do the work in process, it's that guy there that we want to calculate. Right? So now if I look here, I got the labor, I short the rest. Did they tell me, if you look here, they say, there is no work in process in the beginning or the end of the year. Right, meaning my opening is 0 and my closing is 0. So you will be fine by just writing direct material, direct labor, factory overheads, and add them together for the finished goods. Okay, so now we need information for direct material and for factory overheads. So let's go have a look. So raw material. I want to know how much was issued. And they say here raw materials issued to the factory for production was 403. So it's 403. Everybody with me? Okay, now I need factory overheads. Do they give me factory overheads? No. They give it to me here at the bottom, here. They say factory overhead cost, but they only give me the unit cost. Okay, so now I know if the unit cost is 53.50, how many units did I produce? So I go look here at the top, and they say units produced this year, 4,200. Can you see that? 4,200. So, in other words, my factory overheads is going to be 4,200 units times that 53.50 price per unit. And that gives me what? 224,700. Okay, and now if I add them together, I'm going to get how many final goods, what's the price for the final goods? Huh?
Why don't you add the salary of the factory foreman?
You don't have to, because they already, if you look at number D, that factory overhead will must include the factory foreman. So this is right at the end when everything's already been done. This one here, they gave to you like this, just to make sure that you can identify which one to use. Okay. So, what is my final goods? My financial, finished goods? 1,015,700. Okay, there's my production cost. Okay. Now they ask me the unit cost of production. So what are you going to do? If I want the unit cost per production, I'm going to take that. So this is the production cost per unit. My production cost is that 1,015,700 that I calculated here. My units, how many units did I produce? 4,200, nay. So what's my cost per unit? Okay, 241.83. Most probably they'll give me, did they give you your sales cost? No. Yeah, the selling price I see is 350 rand. So they are making a profit there, ne? Okay. Now, let's go on. Next, they asked me, calculate, so we've done this, calculate the number of meters of raw material, fabric, that appears to be wasted in the production process. So what are you going to do? You're going to calculate how much are you supposed to use, and you're going to compare it to what you did use, and the difference is going to be your wastage. Okay, so now if I go look at my information, I know I made 4,200 units, ne? And they tell me here Miriam has done a study and discovered that 3.6 meters are used per tracksuit. So if I times with 3.6 meters, I can see how many meters am I supposed to use. How much is that? How much am I supposed to use? $140. 50. 50. Oh. Okay. This is the meters I'm supposed to use. How many meters was issued? Already issued was 16,120. Ne? Issued. So what is wasted? Not drunk, wasted. 1,000 meters are wasted. You understand? Does that make sense to you? Chap? So now she asks, so the next one, there has been no theft in the business. Give 2 examples of how the wastage could have occurred, and in each case advise Miriam to solve the problem. So there is 2 reasons why there is so much wastage, and how will she solve it? So what's the first problem? Why is stuff wasted? Yes. Okay, the quality of goods, ne? The quality of raw material. So what she means with that if you're making stuff from material and it's bad quality, it means that if you open up the roll of material, there might be some parts that's not thoroughly, what do you call it when you weaved? I'll be back. So, if I talk about the quality, it means like if I open it up, there might be misprints. You know, sometimes you get like black marks on it, or you'll see that some parts haven't been woven properly. Then you can't use that. Meaning some parts of the material on the roll that I bought was useless. I can't use it because there's faults in the material itself. So how will you solve the problem? Buy better quality. No. What will you do? Change suppliers. Change suppliers. This is the easiest thing to do. What is another reason for wastage? Yes. What is the seasonal change? No, this is not about selling. This is about in the process of making it. They used 1,000 meters more than needed. It's not about the selling. Focus on the making, the production. That's it. One of two things you can decide. The one is the machines are old and outdated and they make mistakes. They rip the material, for instance. Then what would be your advice? Replace the faulty machinery or have it serviced. Or the other one that I think also that we can do is we can say a lot of mistakes. Workers make lots of mistakes. So in other words, they have to they cut, for instance, 2 left legs instead of 1 left and 1 right leg. So now they have to recut it. They stitch the things wrong together and then they have to tear it loose and then it's wrong and then they have to... How are you going to fix it? So you fire them and then you're going to sit and do everything.
Give them a training.
You train them. Train. You're not going to put them on a train like certain people want to. You're going to train them. Okay, I hope you got the joke.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Okay.